Welcome back to the Inspiration Station podcast. My name is Carson Keller, and I am here to take you aboard the Innovation Express. On Inspiration Station, we have been exploring the many attributes of the entrepreneurial mindset, supported by the Chang Institute for Entrepreneurship at SFU. On this week's episode, we discuss the power of entrepreneurship and the transformative potential it holds through the lens of opportunity recognition. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the Inspiration Station podcast. My name is Carson. I am your host, and I am so excited for today's episode. So let's just dive right into it. Are you ready to be inspired? We have the absolute honor of welcoming a remarkable individual who is making waves in the not-for-profit sector and leaving a lasting impact on the world. With a deep commitment to fostering positive change, they co-founded the Glow Within Foundation, a global not-for-profit organization dedicated to empowering youth worldwide. But that's not all. They are a professional photographer, renowned for their ability to capture the essence of human emotions through the lens of the camera. Their work with Lika has garnered international acclaim, leaving audiences captivated by the beauty and depth of their artistry. Hailing from a diverse cultural background, our guest's journey has been shaped by their own experiences, heritage, and unwavering determination. Along the way, they discovered their power of entrepreneurship and the transformative potential it holds for individuals and communities. They are also the recipient of the esteemed 2022 Making Waves Award. This guest has become a trailblazer, an inspiration, and a beacon of hope for countless young women and entrepreneurs in the Filipino community. Now, it's time to hear their story. A narrative of resilience, passion, and unwavering commitment to making a difference. Join us as we delve into the transformative moments, the challenges faced, and the lessons learned on this extraordinary journey. I would like to introduce Marzia Sager. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, what an introduction.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, how about you give us a little bit of an introduction beyond what I just said, if there's anything you'd like to add, elaborate on?
Sure. So like Carson said, my name is Marzia. I am a co-founder of a nonprofit organization called Glow Within. I'm also deeply creative. So everything that I do is really embedded in creative work, in artistry, but also in empowering others and supporting youth. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for going a little bit deeper into that. You mentioned that you are a very creative individual, and no word of a doubt, even from what we've just learned, you are an extremely creative individual. And I'm wondering what brought about that creativity and what sort of fuels your fire in the creative realm?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was younger, I grew up watching just strong, powerful women, and my dad, who was just so creative at all times. He was a jack of all trades, so he really wasn't stuck in one career path. And so when it came to university, I was almost rattled by that perception that you could go into all these different things and allow creativity to kind of take you over. So my family is definitely a huge inspiration for me, because they're all like very creative people in different ways. And just the culture and the environment that I'm in and what I grew up with really impacted the way I thought about the world and how I envisioned certain things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so happy that you've drawn inspiration from so many different places and how it's really brought you to where you are today in terms of your creative process. I could imagine that coming from a very creative family that you've done quite a few projects together. Mm-hmm. Are there any that sort of come to top of mind that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, so it was mentioned in the intro that I am a photographer, and the sole reason why I'm a photographer is because of my dad. So my dad had a photography, well, he still has it. So he has a photography company called EMSager Photography. And so when I was in grade 9, I actually started editing for him and his co-photographers.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I got into it. I never got formal training in Photoshop. It was just because my dad needed support. And so I thought, okay, well, this is just another application that I get to learn. And then I took some classes in high school that kind of dove into the basics of photography. And then I thought, I want to be behind the lens rather than just behind a computer. So that's how we started. And we still work together in lots of different events and weddings and such. But he has allowed me to grow into my own path of really taking photography in my own terms, and not just, what he's envisioned it as, but like what my eyes see. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And I guess a question that I would have for you coming from your own personal photography journey now, where has that taken you?
It's taken me so many different places. I've met really awesome people because of photography, and I was able to tell their story in a different way with, captured moments rather than like narratives and such. But it is a visual narrative, and that's why I love photography so much. There's so much art behind it, and you have to be curating that moment and making it special in whatever capacity. So I've traveled a lot of places because of my love of taking photos, and I'm hoping that it only goes up from here and I get to experience more things due to this hobby that turned into a really strong passion.
That's awesome. As someone who's taken a couple of photography courses in the past, there is a lot of careful planning that goes into like even just a single photo shoot or even just one single photo sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to spend a lot of time just even considering the time of day, where you're going to be placing like your subject.
Yeah.
How has that journey of going from the ground up as a self-taught photographer to where you are now, where do you see yourself going in the future from here? What are your aspirations? What are your goals?
For sure. I think the beginning of it was really humbling because it taught me that there's so much to learn all the time. Like you can't just get started and you're brilliant and like amazing already, right? So in the beginning, I was really struggling with composing what I wanted that personal expression was, because there's so many photographers out there and there's so much talent out there. So it was really like kind of breaking out of my shell and trying to figure out who I was as a photographer. But in the future, I can really see myself in the creative industry or anything to do with creative. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be strictly photography, but I just love being able to kind of blend all of my skills within that aspect of myself. And yeah. Oh.
What is that? I think it is time for the Mindset Matters Minute.
Okay.
Now, as we know through the podcast, we've been doing this every single episode with our interviewees. We have carefully selected a word from the entrepreneurial mindset supported by the Chang Institute. There are 12 of them, and they sort of help guide entrepreneurs in their journey. I think it's a great way for you to sort of delve a little bit deeper into your knowing and your understanding. I'm going to present you with an attribute from the entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
And once I do that, you will have 1 minute to process it, to describe it to us, maybe provide a personal story about it, define it, whatever works best for you.
Okay.
How do you relate best to your word? And your word is opportunity recognition.
Oh, very interesting. So opportunity recognition for me is just really being open to the possibility and the potential. There's so many things that you can do out there, but recognizing which one really fits who you are and what you do best is a great way of becoming an entrepreneur. So for instance, in the nonprofit space, when we started Glow Within, we really didn't think that it was going to be a business or anything of an organization at all. It was just some students that were talking about these common things that they experienced when they were in high school. And so we thought, why not start a nonprofit? Why not go against the grain and empower young women at our age? Because, again, another part of opportunity recognition is like really realizing where you're at and what you can do now. So it's that power of now and what you do with that time and the moment. I think I have a couple of seconds left.
I think you have 3 seconds to breathe.
How was that?
Very, very good job.
Thank
Very
you.
good job. I think there's something that you said in there about the power of now that is extremely important, and I kind of want to pull a little bit more from that.
Sure.
Specifically with regards to Glow Within. So I mentioned that in the intro, but I want to know a little bit more about Glow Within and how you have sort of used the power of now to bring yourself to where you are, to where the organization is now?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. And so I met 3 other co-founders in a startup business class. So it is one of the classes in the Chang Institute. And so
And which course is that, by
it
the
was
way?
Biz 477 with Doug. But yeah, so we met, and it was 2 business students and then 2 communication students that kind of just crossed paths. And so there were a lot of other students out in the class at that time that were thinking of like tech startups and NFTs and all those sorts of really cool innovations. And I was kind of feeling down because that wasn't where my heart was. My heart is always in social impact. So when I met these 3 other co-founders, I thought, oh my goodness, you're talking my language, but what do we do with this? Like, we're bonding and we're talking about all these issues, but what do we do? So that's how I kind of think about the power of now. When we talk to any like government officials, other organizations, they're like, why would you start a nonprofit in your 20s when you're in university? Like, are you crazy? And so my answer is always, if I don't do it now and I do it in my 30s and my 40s when I feel like I'm stable enough, then the impact wouldn't be the same, because our mandate is being able to connect with these young women and relate with them on the level where we are still also learning ourselves. So sometimes you can't wait for that perfect timing, and you can't wait for that, oh, this is me when I'm like, I have everything that I need. And that's exactly what entrepreneurship is, right? Like, you may lack resources, you may lack certain aspects that you don't have yet, but if you don't get started, then that idea just completely passes you over, and then nothing else will manifest from that. So that's kind of what I tell other people too, is, you know, if you don't take the leap, then nothing happens. And you're still in your comfort zone.
That is, I think a lot of our listeners are going to really value what you just said. So thank you for saying that. I definitely appreciate you hearing that as well, given that I'm still in my very early 20s and I'm sort of at this crossroads of like, where am I going to go from where I'm at right now? And just sort of hearing to just go with your passion and to move forward from there can really open a lot of doors. And I think a lot of people can take something from that.
I'm glad.
To sort of hone into that a little bit more, actually, I can imagine that given that you did start Glow Within at a very young age, and given that where you are right now with all of your wonderful experiences, I could imagine that it sort of inspired a lot of your growth and a lot of the decisions that you've been making recently. How has Glow Within, and I guess the experience that you've had within the organization and the journey that you've had there, how has that brought you to where you are now, on a larger scale?
Absolutely. Glow Within was the biggest challenge that I went through in university. So the beginning of my university career, it was quite like average. Like, I wasn't really feeling like I was overly passionate about anything else within school. So, and the challenge doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing. Like, I felt like I had to have that change in routine and that struggle to ensure that I was really pushing myself for growth. So when you're not constantly seeking that new thing that will go against everything that you're comfortable with, then I feel like you're stagnant. And so I'm always pro growth. That's another one of the aspects of the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes, it is.
And so, yeah, Glow Within was just so different from what I was used to. Like, I ran the photography business with my dad, and that was a for-profit. And everything else that I learned about was a for-profit. So now when you're entering like a philanthropy phase, or like anything that has to do more with a social cry or like a mission, and an impact, a place of impact, then it's really a turn. It kind of shakes you a little bit and makes you learn all these different things. Like, you have to adjust and adapt, and innovate within a space that's not often looked at for innovation. So yeah, I don't know if
I can imagine that those decisions have to happen quite quickly.
Yes, yeah, and when we were going through schools and doing our pilot program, like, it was go, go, go. Like, there wasn't time to stop, because when you lose that momentum, it kind of, you go through a phase where you're like, why am I doing this? Can we do this? So you just constantly have to like hit the ground running.
For real, for real.
Yeah.
I could imagine that brought about a bit of anxiety though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the Glow Within mandate is around, physical, mental, and emotional health. And every single time I talk to my co-founders, we always remind each other we have to practice what we preach, because it really challenges your mental state, because we're constantly working on this 5 to 9. We have day jobs because, just to be real, like, we just came out of university, so we do need to fund this nonprofit, but we're so happy to do it. So definitely, like, it takes a lot to kind of pause and reflect and understand that where we are currently is already so great. Like, that's what we often forget as entrepreneurs, is like all the things and all the achievements, sometimes they're quite small, or you just completely forget about them and you don't realize how far you've come. So yeah.
And as a change maker, I think it's important that you take those steps back and to really see the big picture of all of the impacts that you've made.
Exactly. That's a good reminder.
Of course. And I just have to congratulate you on all of your beautiful achievements that you've made. Like, it is so impressive to hear. And just the fact that you've been able to do it all at once is very, very inspiring.
That's so kind. But of course, I always have to kind of say, because people always ask, like, how do you do it, and all those things, and humbly, like, it's hard. Okay, so it wasn't like there wasn't a perfect formula for how to balance everything, and there are a lot of moments when I felt like completely giving up and crying, and so I just have to remind everybody of that none of this will ever, even though on the outside it may look perfect, there's so much that goes into it, and there's so much that you don't see. But I also want to show the vulnerability and the side where it is okay to kind of crash and want to fall a little bit, and that's completely fine. So,
and I think that's just part of being an entrepreneur.
Exactly, and it's human.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody has their highs and lows.
Yes.
And that's just something that comes with being alive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's peel this back a little bit for our listeners.
Sure.
I think where a lot of our listeners are at right now is they are just starting to make their decision, and they're just starting to realize what they want to do with their lives and what their passion might be. Who knows? But I think this is a very pivotal period of time for a lot of people. Do you have any advice that you would give for somebody who is trying to enter a mind frame of where they want to take their lives?
For sure. That's a good one. I feel like this audience means so much to me, because not too long ago I was that person. So like I said, when I started university, I felt really average, like nothing. I didn't feel special, and I didn't think that I was gonna go anywhere realistically. I started off in science. I was super confused, and then I stumbled into business and comms, and then I really was like, wow, these existed, like I could study these things and actually try to make money. But I felt lost. And so I think what I would advise students or young people who are at that stage where they're trying to make decisions, number one is you surround yourself with people who will ground you but also push you towards greatness. So I have been surrounded with amazing mentors and coaches and people at the Chang Institute, including people like Mako and Janice and Ben and all the, like, Sarah, who are so inspirational and really set me on a path where I get to make decisions and make my own choices. And that's very rare. So if you are looking in entrepreneurship, it's such a wonderful benefit of it, is because you get to take your charge of whatever you want to do in life.
Yeah.
And the second thing is definitely don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you will make mistakes. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. When you think of a solution to a problem, it doesn't work out. But you fall in love with the problem. And that's when all the innovation comes from, right? And that's where the inspiration is if you keep trying. It doesn't always come at the first step. And the last is take care of yourself. So when you're taking care of your mind and your body, then it's a lot easier to go to the next step rather than being burnt out. So it's a holistic approach. And I think you have to be very well-rounded in that, you're not just about other people, you're not just about the work, but you're also about you and who you are.
And it's so, so, so important to stay true to who you are. I think if there's anything that anybody can ever say or take away from this podcast is exactly that, to take care of yourself and to stay true to who you are. That is absolutely fantastic. So I think we're starting to run out of time here. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you with one more question.
Okay.
You've done so much. You are such an inspiring individual in that you're able to do so much and also take care of yourself at the same time. What is next for you?
What is next? So in my personal life, I recently got engaged, so I have a wedding to plan.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's definitely coming up fast, but also that next word is such a challenge because I always want to know what's coming. And so I'm definitely just excited to keep pursuing what Glow Within can be in the Canadian space as well as the global space. And as in terms of photography, I do have a studio opening up really soon. So it's in collaboration with one of the most amazing visionaries that I know, who is my best friend. And so I'm really excited about that. And just more projects. My brother and I are working on a couple things. And so I can't wait to be, promoting all those family values with my brother. And the last piece, I'm so grateful and honored to have been recognized by BC Business for their list of 30 under 30. It's such a privilege to be there.
I think that's deserving of a round of applause. Am I right?
Thank you. And I'm just so grateful to my co-founders, Karen and Claire. I wouldn't be here without them. And yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a huge honor
Thank
to receive. And even just with everything else that you've done and what you're going to be doing, I'm so, so excited to see where that takes you.
Thanks.
So before we wrap this up,
Okay.
Tell the people where can they find you?
Tell the people. So you can find me on Instagram. Please follow our Glow Within socials. So it's at Glow Within Foundation in all the platforms. And my Instagram is at It's Marzia. And apart from that, yeah. Oh, and at MarsMade is my personal photography account. So if you wanted to check it out. But thank you so much, Carson. I had a really good time.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.